It's recording. All right, well, welcome to cisc310. How many people are here? This is your first semester here. Okay, we have quite a few, half the class at least. So welcome to the campus as well. Some of you are returning students, so you know your way around here already. This is my microphone. I'm recording the lecture as well as what is on the screen. So I'm doing screen recording for this class. At the end of a day, not at the end of the class, I will upload the video onto YouTube, and you can go onto YouTube and use today's date and also the class, cisc310, to locate the video for today, for that particular day. So I hope that will be a useful resource, just in case, someone, there's one particular concept that you wanted to review that I talked about in the class, and that's, an easy way to do it. It doesn't work really well unless, you are also paying attention in class. In fact, from time to time, you can also kind of write down the timestamp, like what time I talked about which topic, so that way it will help you to locate a particular topic should you decide to go to YouTube, because otherwise you have to watch the whole thing again, and it's just time consuming. Okay, any questions at this point? So I'm hoping that I can streamline this process later on, because right now I have to do a whole lot of stuff on the command line to get it working. I'm also not using Windows, at least for the time being. Maybe later on in this semester I'll be using Windows, but I'm using Linux right now. And how many people can think of a reason why I'm using Linux? Yep.
Direct server access. You don't have to do as much to get certain things.
And also,
it's a lot easier to
it
use.
doesn't use a lot of resources.
Yeah,
Can anyone guess how much RAM I need to run Linux? With a GUI, running Office suite applications, that sort of thing. How much RAM?
Less than 500 megabytes. Less than 500 megabytes.
Less than 500 megabytes, you're right. Half a gig of RAM is all that I need to do everything that I do in this class, with great efficiency too. So we'll go ahead and get started with the class. So now this class is not offered through D2L. So if you want to get onto the class website, it is moodle.losreals.edu and not d2l.losreals.edu. You might have received email messages from me already from this website. So we'll go here. And if you just type moodle.losreals.edu, you will be using HTTP. You will get redirected to the HTTPS or the secure port, so that when you type in your password and your username, and you're using a open Wi-Fi, like at a cafe, your password and your username cannot be easily captured. Okay. We'll talk about security in this class as well, but for the time being, just rest assured that the security of this website is definitely there. Now, when you log in, okay, let me just kind of log out again so I can show you how you would log in. Okay. So when you log in, you can just follow these instructions. Look at the welcome message here, and I will bump up the font size just so that it's easier for the class to read. Okay. So when you log in, you have to use your student ID with a W as your username. That's your only way to log in, just like D2L. And then the password is the same password that you use with D2L, IMail, e-services. It's your universal password for the Lost Reals district. Are there any questions about your username or your password to log into Moodle? No questions? So that's all good? All right. Now, if you forget your password, or you need to reset your password, or it has expired, you have to click this link, which is lostreals.edu/password, to reset your password or renew your password. I have no access to change your password, to retrieve your password, or to reset your password. This is the only way to do it. So when I log in as a different name. But you have to log in with your W followed by 7 digits student ID. After you log in, it will look like this, almost the same as before, except you will also see my courses. I have a few courses that I'm teaching through Moodle. In fact, all my classes are taught through Moodle. You might see one, if you're only taking one class offered through Moodle, there will only be one item, whereas all your other classes will be in D2L. You might see a few items if you're taking multiple classes where the professor chooses to use Moodle. Any questions at this point? Any questions? All right. So we'll go ahead and get into this class, which is cisc310. And here, this is the class site. The class site, it's arranged differently compared to D2L. There are fewer clicks for the most part for just about anything. On the left-hand side, you have your navigation, which for most of you is not going to be very helpful once you're in the class. If you don't like this to be taking up so much space, you can always undock it, or you can hide it. So move this to the dock. When you click it, it just hides it to the dock. So if you don't need it, it's out of the way. If you want to undock it, you can just make it appear again, and then choose this button here. Oops, I guess the other one. And now it is undocked. So fancy things that you can choose, to do it one way or another. I would probably just dock it so that it doesn't take up, that much screen space. Like that. All right. And I'll probably dock the other one too. The other one, keep forgetting. All right. We still have 1, 2, 3 more seats if you guys want to sit down. I'll go over the syllabus first, and then we'll go to Cengage, which is where we'll get our labs for this class. The syllabus is already online. There are 2 of these. The first one is in PDF, which is great for printing, but not so good when I'm presenting that in the class. The second one is just plain HTML, which is really useful, for in-class presentation. So I'm going to use that one for this class, for the syllabus. All right. So this is the syllabus. The first part is stuff that you may or may not know. The title. Oh, I got it from the wrong class. I forgot to change the course title. But I think the description is right. The course title is Introduction to Computer Science. The description is correct. This course is a survey of the computer field covering the function and purpose of computer hardware and software, computer programming concepts, productivity software, employment opportunities, and the social impact of the computer. That's a lot of stuff for 3 units. So we are just going to be touching on all the topic areas just a little bit. It's a survey class. Look at this as your sampler for computer classes. Okay, so we'll see some networking stuff, some programming stuff, some multimedia stuff, some application stuff. It's just a sampler. This is what you don't see in your syllabus, the student learning outcome. We will describe how a computer system works, but not really down to the hardware, really, technical level. We'll just talk about it in a more general level. Identify the hardware components of a computer system. Once again, it's going to be from a user's perspective, not from an engineer's perspective. Software, same thing. Describe the purpose of a computer operating system. Pretty much the same thing. Okay, we'll just look at things from the user's perspective. It's an exposure to, in addition to Windows, do we have any other operating systems? We have convert numbers between the binary and decimal number system. How many people know what is base conversion? Because that's what base conversion is. Sort of. Okay. So not a whole lot of people feel confident about base conversion at this point. How many people think that you can work at McDonald's and be able to give out the right amount of change using the least number of coins and bills? Okay, so you guys can do better than base conversion already. Trust me, you already know base conversion, you just don't know it yet. I'll just give you one hint of what base conversion is about, and I'll relate that to the money system, where you have to find the right amount of coins and bills for changes. Instead of pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, $1 bills, let's skip to $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills. Think of it this way. You have $1 bills, $2 bills, $4 bills, $8 bills, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, and so on. So those are the kind of bills that you can have. On the other side, you have half dollars, quarters, $8, $16, 30-second dollars, and so on the other side, on the fractional side. That's it. That's base conversion. If you know how to work with that quote-unquote base 2 system, using the concept that you already know about money, how to give someone just the right amount of change, you already know base conversion. Okay, so when we talk about that topic, remember this, because it's not nearly as hard as most people think it is. Professors like to make it sound it's really hard so that we look smart, but it's not really that hard. In fact, most things are not hard. It's just that professors try to make it as hard as it seems. Okay, we'll also talk about the basic operation of the internet. We'll touch on TCP/IP and networking protocols, but not really that much out of it. Explain how email is sent, stored, and retrieved. Same thing. Describe the purpose of the system development life cycle. That's going to be a little bit abstract, so I'll try to find some examples where it is not boring nor abstract. Identify commonly used programming languages. In this class, I will probably use Scratch. For those of you who want to get a head start or want to get into programming right away, look up Scratch MIT. Scratch as in a cat, scratching a post, that kind of scratch. And MIT as in Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's a graphical programming interface, and it's really fun. You can integrate motion of an icon, they call it a sprite, music, sound effects, and there's no programming language. It's all visual. You drag and drop blocks to write your programs. So it's impossible to have syntax error. We'll design and create solutions to simple problems using flowcharts or other algorithm design tools. I will not be using flowcharts. I do not think flowcharts are really appropriate for representing logic, because it can easily lead to spaghetti code. We'll talk about all this stuff when we get to that point. Design, create, modify, and test simple computer programs. So once again, I'll use Scratch as the platform. You guys will enjoy it. It's fun. Evaluate the social issues pertaining to computer technology, including ethics, copyright, privacy, and security. That's going to be a recurring theme, so I'm not going to talk about it all the way at the end of the class. I'll just be sprinkling those topics along the way whenever it seems, relevant. Are there any questions at this point? Nobody is questioning, who can access your grade in the system and stuff like that. Just right off the bat, that's privacy issue, right? Why do you care?
Personal information.
It's personal information. So even if you're a straight A student, it doesn't mean that, I'll just let everybody access my grade, right? Even if you don't mind telling it to some people, you should have the control of who can view your grade and who cannot. Yep.
If they can access your grade, they can also access your student number and any personal information pertaining to you. Well, if you can see your grade.
The student ID is not a secret. In other words, it's actually it's as secret as your name, as far as the school is concerned. But your grade is a privacy issue. In other words, the college has an obligation to make sure that no one other than you and those people who should have access to your grade can access your grade. So, did I kind of address the point?
Yeah.
Okay. So this class is a 3-unit class. It has 54 lecture hours spread over 16 weeks. Next slide is about me. My first name is Tak, T-A-K, and last name is not actually very pronounceable. Okay, you can see how there are 5 vowels strung together, and and then one single consonant at the end. NG is one single consonant, right? So it makes it pretty hard to pronounce.
Is it Aoyang?
Can we hear it?
Huh?
Is it pronounced Aoyang?
It's an approximation of a Cantonese pronunciation, which is really hard because Cantonese has certain sounds that are missing in English and vice versa.
Can you pronounce it?
I can try. I can try. It's Aoyang, maybe? Aoyang. The Mandarin version of that last name is a lot easier. It's Ouyang. Okay, O-U-Y-A-N-G. That's actually easier to pronounce. But this is Cantonese, and Cantonese is, really, it's difficult to map Cantonese pronunciation to English. It's not easy to map. So just call me Tak, it's fine, okay? I know some professors, prefer that you call them, professor, blah, 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 last name, or doctor, blah, 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 last name. Tak is fine, okay? It's easy, it's direct, easy for me to recognize as well, okay? My office is number 7 in Liberal Arts 133, which is one aisle on the other side. You see a glass door, that's the BCS, or Business and Computer Science Division. Once you get through the glass door, you go straight and then make a right turn, and then my office is the second last on the left. My office hours is kind of all over the place. For the first 8 weeks, Monday and Wednesdays, I will be in my office from 9 to 10 o'clock. For second 8, I will be there from 10:30 to 11:30 because I have a class in the morning from 9 to 10 for the second 8 weeks. On Tuesdays, I'll be in my office from 12 to 1 o'clock. On Thursdays, I'll be in my office from 5 to 6 o'clock. Does everybody understand how to read 24-hour formats? Okay, very good. I find it to be handy because there's no confusion and it's easy to calculate how much time is between this time and that time. And then Friday, I won't be in my office. It's quote-unquote online. My phone number is 484-8250, but I typically, if you want to get to me or ask questions and stuff like that, either email address will get to me. My cell phone, I can check both of these addresses on my cell phone. So that's the easiest way to get to me. And in the online classroom, we are here already. This is moodle.losrios.edu. Are there any questions about this particular slide?
This is all stuff that we can all access from the syllabus, right?
Correct. And all you have to do is to remember the URL, moodle.losrios.edu. And once you sign in, everything is accessible from that point. Next slide. This is about this particular section. It is Tuesday, Thursday, 9 o'clock to 10:20. The final exam is, just according to the schedule. So you look up the final schedule. It depends on what is the start time of the class, and that determines, what day and what time we'll have our final exam. I'll look it up when it's time. It's kind of early right now. Class policies and rules, all the boring stuff. There are only 3 excuses that I have to accept for absences, and these are the 3. The sickness of the student himself or herself with a doctor's note dated and signed. If you are feeling sick and you're on campus, the easiest way to get a doctor's note, quote unquote doctor's note, is go to the nurse's office. Go to the health center here, and then the nurse will give you an excuse. They can write it up and go, okay, this student is sick on this particular day. But if you're off campus, kind of have to think about how to do it. Jury duty with a copy of the summons. Okay, I just need to look at it. I don't need to keep it. Or military duty with also a copy of the notice. Any questions about these 3 types of excuses? So technically speaking, the sickness of a child, or parent, or a close relative, or your pet, is not within this category, I can excuse those particular absences, at my discretion. In other words, I'm not, heartless and go, oh, I just found my cat, on the road dead, so I had to do something about it, and that's why I missed my class. You know what? That's okay. I can understand it because it just happened to my cat. About 2 weeks ago, it was really sad. It's just that I don't want to hear that story every week. Like, I just got a new cat and it got killed again. Then I will start to become like, maybe that's not a acceptable excuse anymore.
Maybe you should stop buying cats.
Choose rats instead, right?
Sorry about your cat.
Yeah, it was really sad. He was a good cat. All right, attendance policies. This is actually quoted from the college catalog. Maybe one of these days I should make this a scavenger hunt, okay, find where in the catalog this is all mentioned. And do it as quickly as possible. The first person gets 100%, the second gets 95%, and just, get it. By the time we get to the 20th student, there will be no points left. Too much pressure, huh? Okay, college, this is actually quoted from the college catalog. College students are expected to attend all sessions of their courses. Excessive absence may result in the student being dropped from class by the instructor, especially these days because every class is overflowing. I mean, we are having more students than there are available seats in the class. A student may be dropped from any class when the student's absences exceed 6% of the total hours of class time. Okay, what is 6% of 54 hours? I'm lazy.
It's like 3.2.
I'm lazy. I'm gonna.
1.6.
Well, it'll be.
3.5 hours.
Okay, this is my calculator. I do everything the hard way. It's 3.24 hours. Okay? And how many hours do we meet per week? We meet 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is 1.33 hours per day, and we meet twice per week. So how long would it take to accumulate to 3.24 hours? Yes.
2 hours and 40 minutes.
Less than 3 classes. Okay, so 2 classes and something. So I'll count it as 3. So anyone who missed 3 classes with no excuses will be dropped. Okay, and the first class is mandatory. That reminds me to pass the roll sheet around. Obviously, you have nothing to worry about because you're here. All you have to do is to remember to put your name next, sign your name next to your printed name, and you're fine. Now, sometimes I'm nice and I will give people warnings like, well, you've been missing 2 classes already, what's happening? But sometimes I may not do that. Attendance for online classes, that's irrelevant to this. And then this is irrelevant because this is a face-to-face class. Attendance for a face-to-face or hybrid class that has mandatory face-to-face time is determined by roll taking by a variety of means. I usually just pass that sheet of paper around. You just have to remember to put your name next to it, and we are fine. If you're on a wait list for this class, sign your name next to your name on that paper also, because I have printed all the people on the wait list as well. Okay. Sure. Okay. Next up is what I expect in the classroom. There's no lab component of this class. But first of all, the classroom or in the lab are facilities provided only for the intended coursework. If you have your homework assignments, let's say for your English class, and you're falling a little bit behind and you want to kind of work on it while you're sitting in this classroom, it's okay with me. Okay, I can understand it because my middle schooler daughter would do it in her own classes too. Not the best way to study or the best way to take classes, but sometimes I know people are in a crunch and you have to do it. That's okay with me. On the other hand, practicing stuff for your PE classes may not be so okay. Taking out your, bow and arrow in the classroom, that may not be, that may not sit well with other students either. Any behavior in the classroom or lab that interferes with teaching or learning is not going to be tolerated. So that includes, any type of disruption, bullying, excessive chatting, and so on and so forth. You guys know this already. I mean, you have been through middle school and high school, so you already know this stuff. Chatting, if there's any class-related questions, ask me instead of another student. I know it's kind of noisy, especially for you guys in the back, because okay. A lot of times I have students, kind of chatting to each other, but they're actually talking about on-topic stuff. Maybe something that I was explaining a minute ago, and one student did not quite get it and want to ask the other student to clarify. Ask me instead, slow me down. Okay, by all means, ask questions in the class, raise your hand, and just say, I don't quite get, what you just said. Okay. Most people, or some people think, but that's embarrassing. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of the whole class. But chances are, given that I'm teaching the class, you will be the hero of the class when you ask questions. Because 20% of the class may have exactly the same question. And they're all thinking, I don't want to ask the question, I'll wait for somebody else to ask the question. If you turn out to be that somebody asking the question, you'll be the hero of the class. So don't stop asking questions, slow me down, stop me, ask questions, okay? Because we need to clarify concepts as soon as possible in order for you guys to learn well in this class. This is a funny one, pets. Since I just talked about my cat, there was one time one of my students brought in a dog, but this is not one of those, helping dogs, it's just a dog. Kind of shaggy one too. Which doesn't bother me, the dog was panting the entire time, loudly, okay? Now with a lot of the helper dogs, they're completely silent when they're not working, and you hardly notice that they are there. Not this one. It was panting so loudly that the class could not concentrate. It was going like, I couldn't even breathe that hard, the dog was breathing really hard. And then they turn around and lick, the students, behind, the dog. It was just not, very good. So I had to tell the student to leave the pet, somewhere else and not bring it into the classroom. Cell phones. I'm not very strict on cell phones. Some professors will write you down every time your cell phone rings. He will write you down, and your points will be deducted from your, overall score in that class. I'm not quite that strict, once or twice is okay, as long as it is not consistent, okay, or frequent. So once it rings, you turn it off, turn off the ringer, put it back in your bag, that's okay with me. If you need to carry on a conversation, which I understand, okay, sometimes you're expecting some important phone calls, or it's an emergency, or you receive a text, something really important happened and you really have to talk at that point, it's okay to talk outside of the classroom. You can just quietly walk outside of the classroom, make your call, and then come back in when you're done. Okay, so that part doesn't bother me as much as long as it is not frequent. So I cannot have one student walking in and out every minute, because there are 40-something students in the class. So if everybody gets a phone call every 2 minutes, this classroom will be quite busy. No eating or drinking is allowed in the classroom. I'll make one exception. Drinking water is okay. Just plain water is going to be okay, because you don't have a computer in front of you unless you bring one with you. So if you spill just plain water, it will just evaporate, and there's no harm done. So plain drinking water is okay, but anything that will leave a stain or sugary, you might want to finish it before the class, or if you want to, you can also walk outside and finish it during the class. Non-compliant participants, that includes myself, note that I didn't say students, so you should not see me eating in the classroom, will be asked to leave the classroom or the lab. Further non-compliance will result in the involvement of security personnel and will be reported to the student discipline officer. Any questions about this slide? Typical stuff. Conduct code. Now this one applies mostly to academic integrity or dishonesty, depending on how you want to look at it. Any academic dishonesty may be reported to administration. So the first person to be reported would be my dean, okay, my supervisor. An accumulation of these attempts, reported attempts, can lead to expulsion from the college, which is not something that anyone wants. All participants involved in academic dishonesty do not receive points for the work submitted. So this includes the person or the people who even originate the material and not the ones who just copy it from somebody else. Activities involving academic dishonesty do not count for attendance. In other words, if a particular student cheat in a midterm, that midterm does not count as attendance. That person I would not count as technically there. A student the instructor, me, may ask suspects to do additional work or explain submitted work in order to determine whether the submitted work was submitted originally and whether the student worked on it independently. In this class, all work should be independent and original. In other words, we don't have any teamwork or group work in this class. Not that teamwork is not important, it's just difficult to grade when you have a whole team working on the same project. How many people have kind of not so great experience in teamwork? 2 hands. Not that I have personally experienced that. I used to teach a class at UC Davis. It's a senior year engineering class, and my students would design robots over the course of 3 quarters over there. So this is one single class, but it has 3 quarters. It spreads over the entire year. And every year I have teams that would complain to me, because they couldn't get it to work. So there will be a lot of blames. He didn't work. We have all the meetings, and this person is missing all the time, and so on and so forth. So teamwork is actually very important. In fact, if you want to get employed, this is one of the first things they will look for, is whether this person can work with the rest of the team or not. We have what we call industry advisory committee. In other words, we invite people from industry to come onto campus and tell us what they expect from students, from people who apply for jobs. And one common theme was soft skills. Does everybody understand what is a soft skill? No? Okay. A soft skill is basically just things that are not technical. It's not how many programming languages that you know. It's not how many certificates you have acquired. It's not your GPA. It is how well you can work with other people, how well can you manage your time, how well can you communicate, written and also spoken. What is your manners? Okay, can you work as a support personnel for a company? Staying polite, courteous, all the time. Those are the soft skills, and many companies have expressed that they value soft skills at least as much as hard skills, which is your technical skills. I can whip out a program in 2 hours when most people would need a whole day. Okay, they may not hire this person if this person cannot work with anybody else in the company. Okay. And the last point is kind of important too. I can retroactively re-examine submitted and graded work for evidence of dishonesty, and as a result, I can adjust those grades accordingly. And we are up to here, grading. This is something that most of you do not expect. Well, the first one, I think most people can agree. If someone gets less than 12.5% of the total score, that person deserves an F. I think that's okay. A D is between 1/8 and 3/8 of the points. A C is between 3/8 and 5/8 of the points. A B is between 5/8 and 7/8, and an A is at least 7/8 of all the points. It's a linear curve. Okay, it's just linear. I usually have about the same grade distribution as all the other classes that use the more typical scale. And your points are distributed like this. All the homework assignments will only add up to 20% of your final grade. The final exam is 40% of your final grade. There will be 2 exams or projects depending on what class I'm teaching. The first and the second exam or projects will each take up 20% of your grade. And that makes up 100% of your grade. FAQs. The score is assigned based on observable academic competence and not effort. I have to put this one out because from time to time I have students who tell me, and I don't doubt that they are telling me something that is true, and they say, but I spent 5 hours on this and I'm still getting a low grade. Well, I can only grade it based on what is observable, not how much time someone has spent on a particular project or homework assignment. In other words, some people may spend 5 minutes, get the homework done and get 100%. Some other people may have to spend 2 hours and still not get it perfect and only get a 75%. But I can only grade based on observable academic competence. Multiple choice questions are going to be balanced. In this class, I will probably ask multiple choice questions in the exams. So what this means is it's going to be like SAT. How many people have taken SAT? Okay. So what happens when you get one question wrong? You get a quarter-point deduction, right? If you get something right, you get 1 point. If you leave it blank, you get 0 points. If you get it wrong, you have a quarter point of deduction. Why do you think they arrange it like that?
Just keep guessing randomly.
Well, if you guess randomly, it's the same as not answering. Statistically speaking, that's exactly right. Does everybody understand that point? Kind of? Okay. And some questions are graded based on key indicators, which are objective, observable characteristics of the submitted work. We'll talk about that later. There's no late submission. Submission after the due date do not count RN or are not permitted unless it is covered by an excuse. If you're sick, you can get additional time. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so this section is here because some students will ask me, well, I don't want to be counted as dishonest or cheating, but I really want to help out this other student who's struggling in the class. So what can I do so that it doesn't count as cheating for both students, both me and the student that I'm helping? What do you think? Well, first of all, don't just give the other student your completed homework and just say, just copy it. Would that be helping the other student other than getting the points for the homework assignment? Nope. So what you want to do is to explain the concepts until the other students understand it so that the other student can complete the homework assignment by himself or herself. So that's what you want to do. So you might want to read this whole thing here because I have a test. There's actually a condition where I can decide whether it's a case of cheating or not. Because I know sometimes it can be very gray. Financial aid, students who are on financial aid should consider that aspect, which is academic honesty, carefully, because I have had students who fail a class and pleaded for financial reasons, but I cannot give that student the grade that he wanted because some of the submitted work was proven to be the result of cheating. So the student ended up losing financial aid for that semester, and had to, I guess, return the money using a. Now, how does that work out? Does anyone know?
Cheat?
No, just if someone is on financial aid and could not meet the GPA requirement for one semester.
You go on financial aid probation.
Okay.
Well, yeah, all that happens is, they just, like, you have to pay the financial aid back.
Okay,
That's all about it.
but you can pay it over time. It's not like like today you have to come up with that money.
There's a due date and you have to pay it one time.
Okay.
It's also based on how many courses you're taking. Like if you're a full-time student
Uh-huh.
and you fail one class and it
Mhm.
drops you below full-time, then you'd still get the 3/4,
Mhm.
but you'd have to pay back the difference.
Oh, okay. So it's
For that
prorated.
class.
And if you do it, if you fail consecutive semesters,
Mhm.
then you can be revoked. Have your
Okay.
financial aid revoked.
I see. All right. Enrollment of future classes, pretty much the same thing. This class is not the prerequisite or anything else, so it doesn't really impact a lot of students that way. Yep.
You can apply for financial aid after the fact, like after you sign up for classes.
You can?
I'm asking you.
I do not know. I'm sorry.
You can submit a FAFSA at any time.
Okay.
It just, it depends, because if it's during the school year, sometimes it takes longer than it does if you did it.
There's deadlines too.
Yeah.
There's a deadline there's deadlines for certain aid, but things like the Pell Grant and stuff like that, they don't have a deadline. You just apply.
Do
But
you
it
know
could
where
be-
to apply?
It could be.
I think on the LRC website they have links to it.
Okay.
Ask
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. You can look it up pretty easily. I think it's Student Services, the building of Student Services where the financial aid is located. Is that right?
605,
Yeah.
604, 605.
604, 605? Okay, thank you. And study habits. Okay, I'm not sure whether I really need to cover this or not, but since it's here, first of all, attend classes. Okay, because attendance counts and being here, should help. Second, pay attention in class. Bring something in class to take notes. Because when you're taking notes, you're actually actively listening and digesting the material, and it helps. Now, you don't have to write down everything that is projected on the projector. Why?
Takes too much time.
It takes too much time, and
It's already available to you.
it's on YouTube,
Another reason.
and it's on the website. Okay, so there's no need to copy everything that I present on the projector. If I write something on the whiteboard, yes, that would be important. You might want to copy that. But how fast do you think I can write on the whiteboard?
As fast as you
About the
can.
same as weekend on paper.
Exactly. Okay, so there should be no penalty when I'm writing on the whiteboard and you have to copy. But anything that's on the screen is already recorded, so it should not be a big deal. But it's still important to kind of jot down important parts of it, because sometimes I talk about something and it's just one or two sentences, but it makes all the difference. So you might want to write down those really kind of key concepts and key sentences. And I think that's the entire syllabus. And here's the schedule, which are tentative dates to cover certain topics. I usually kind of miss these dates anyway, so. All right. Are there any questions about the syllabus? No questions? So as I said, yep, go
I
ahead.
do have a question pertaining to the site. Is there any problems with certain browsers that don't work? I know it works for Linux. So.
I use Chrome, Google Chrome, and Firefox extensively, and both of those should work fine. I have not heard of any complaints about Internet Explorer, so should be okay. In the past, I have had problems with Internet Explorer, so. All right. So the next thing we want to do is to talk about how to set up Cengage CourseMate, because that's where you will get all the material for this class. For all my other classes, I typically write my own text. Okay, so the students don't have to buy anything. Everything is on the web for free, and I write everything. And in case I need to update something, I will do all the updates as well. But for this class, I was told that I should be using this resource. So so as a result, you have to use that resource too. Oh, here's a questionnaire. Okay, when you log in, there is a questionnaire called About You. You don't have to do it, and if you choose to do it, it is anonymous. Okay, I cannot tell who gave me which answer, but it will help me understand the class a little bit better in terms of how comfortable you feel around technology stuff like computers. Can you program your DVR to record a TV show? Okay, that sort of thing. I'll show you the questions. I just want to assess, how much I can assume in this class and how much I cannot assume in this class. The first question is, why are you enrolled in this class? Now, you don't have to raise your hand or anything in this class because it's already in the questionnaire. I think cisc310 is in a lot of certificates and programs, even non-computer science types. You may be interested in computer science and want to just kind of find out more about computer science and the computer field. You enroll in this class by accident. Okay? I think that is pretty hard to happen these days. I needed units and this class was still open. I don't think that's going to happen either. How many people have problems getting enrolled in this class or your other classes? You couldn't even get, in some of my classes, students could not even get on the wait list. By the time it's open for those, that's open for registration for those students, the class was filled up. There was no room on the wait list either. It became that bad. Okay, and question number two is, what is the name of the degree or certificate that you are seeking? You can put multiple items separated by commas and leave this blank if you're not currently in a particular degree or program. I think the college requires now that you have to pick a particular program. Is that right? Not. I think you have to pick something. May not be something that you are really interested in, but you have to indicate a particular program. The third one is simple. Are you currently in a degree or certificate program related to the following fields: computer science, computer engineering, or electrical engineering? Number 4 is the fun question. Do you consider yourself tech savvy? You are very tech savvy if you can understand the differences between variants of a processor family. So within the Intel i5 family, you can list all the the cores and tell me what the differences are. Then you are technically very savvy. You can specify compatible parts and put a PC together. Okay, well, I would consider that tech savvy, very tech savvy. You are tech savvy if you can maintain your own PC or Macintosh. Okay, and that includes applying all the patches, installing software, basic maintenance. In the case of Windows, defragging the hard drive, and so on and so forth. Know the actual difference between USB 2.0 and 3.0, other than they're off by 1. You can root or jailbreak a smartphone. Well, okay, this one may not be very tech savvy, but you certainly have to be somewhat brave, if not tech savvy.
Or just, use Google.
Yeah, but if you just use Google, you have to be brave. If you know what you're doing, then you are tech savvy.
You have to be willing to face the fact you can break your phone.
Yes. And you probably have heard horror stories of phone breaking. Does anyone know what I'm talking about, phone breaking?
I had that to my iPod once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can do it to an old phone, it doesn't really matter. But if you get a brand new phone and the second day you break it, that's just not very cool.
Turns into a great paper.
Yep. Or you can hack a Wii or some other game consoles. That's kind of tech savvy. You are somewhat tech savvy if you can use productivity software like Word, Excel, Photoshop, and etc. You can browse the web, shop online, hang out using Google+, Facebook, and other social networking sites. Use most features of a modern digital camera. Turn it on. Press the shutter release. But how do I get the picture out? They make it very easy now because some digital cameras have Wi-Fi, and you can hook up the phone directly to Picasa or some of the online picture sites.
Nikon's releasing an Android-based camera. Nikon is releasing an Android-based camera.
Mm-hmm.
Winter. That'd be cool.
Yeah. You're somewhat text challenged. Okay, so we are kind of going on the opposite side now. If you find it difficult but manage to use productivity software like Word, Excel, and so on, browse the web and shop online and use specific features of a camera. Like, do you know how to turn off the flash of your camera when you need to? Okay. You are tech challenged if you find it difficult to hook up and use an HD TV with a DVD player that has Netflix and other apps. Okay. You go to Costco, you buy a DVD player, and it comes with Wi-Fi, it comes with Netflix app installed. You hook it up, you have to know how to hook it up to your PC, your TV. That part is pretty easy. HDMI cable, just plug it to one end, plug it to the other end. But now, you also need to know how to change the source of the TV so that it is getting the input from that particular HDMI port. And then you have to turn on the DVD and enter the ESS ID of your router and then your password in order to get into Netflix. Then you have to sign in with Netflix, what is your email address and what is your password. Okay, people who cannot do that, I would call that tech challenged. Because in today's time, that is something that it's consumer technology now. Okay, but remember, this questionnaire is anonymous, so don't feel that well, I don't want to answer these questions because I don't want to get embarrassed. Nobody's going to get embarrassed because I can't even tell who chose what answer. Okay. Any questions about the questionnaire? It's completely on a voluntary basis. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine, not a big deal. All right, so now we can get to this part here. A lot of those questions are kind of important because setting up Cengage CourseMate does require a certain amount of technical knowledge of how to use the web, what is signing in, how to register, and stuff like that. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is to get the textbook. You can get the package from the bookstore. I think is it $106 or something like that? Yeah. The really bad part about this is you cannot return it or sell it back at the end of a semester. Can you?
No.
No?
Can't be returned if the package.
If it's like that.
If it's still shrink wrapped, you can still return it?
Yeah.
Okay. They have a new revision every year for this textbook. So it's not like your physics, textbook, or your chemistry textbook, or your math textbook, right? Your calculus textbook, where they don't really have a new revision or new edition every year. This one has a new revision every year, and if you read the title of the book, it's for 2013.
What?
They talk about technology that still does not exist. The author has some sort of a time portal that can look into the future. You're like, yeah, I think that's going to be something I should talk about in 2013. You can also save some money by using buying the electronic version. Now, the electronic version is just a license to use the material online. It does not come with the print or the CD. If you feel completely comfortable with an online resource, like you're in front of a computer all day anyway, and you don't want to use a physical book, that may be a better option because I think it's $80-something, so you can save $20-something going with just the electronic version. And here is the link to purchase your electronic version. Yep.
Do you know if, because some textbooks that have just, or that the ebooks, they come with just a code, sometimes they have like the CD, you can download it from the site. Do you know if they have that option?
I do not think this one has a CD to download, but I'm not 100% sure. But I don't think it comes with it. But with either one, you will have what they call an access code, and that's what you need in order to register with Cengage in a following step. Step 2, you have to register as a student user at Cengage, and here's a link. I'll just bring the link up so that you know what you should be expecting. Yes.
When do we need this by?
Sorry.
When do we need the book and the access?
I'll give you guys about a week to do it, because I'll be like using the chapters from the book. And then in the class, I will assume that you would have read the chapters. We'll just be talking about the topics. Because I've read some of these chapters, and there are certain points that I do not agree with the author. So you guys, we can talk about it in the class. I think that's the best way to teach this class. Yep.
So all the links and information is going to be on the Moodle website. Sign up for it.
Yep. Yeah. Once you sign in and you're in the class, you have the same access to everything that I'm using right now. The gray ones, or the gray links, are not visible to you. But so far, I have not used any gray links. So everything that I do today, you should be able to do it on your own as well. Okay, so when you get here, you want to click New Student User, and that's going to bring up a registration page. The first thing they ask you is the course code. In other words, they don't even want to bother with the process unless you have already purchased a electronic book or the book from the bookstore. Well, that will significantly cut down spammers, right? You have to spend $80 first in order to have the possibility of spamming something. So you have to enter the course code first, and then the next page will ask you about which school you're from, what email address you want to use as your username. It doesn't give you a username per se, but it does ask you for an email address. Use the school email address, W 7-digit student ID at imail.losreals.edu. Because when I grade, I will be using that as the ID so I can tell who completed which homework assignment. So that's the second step. When you register as a user, you must use your email address in the following format. So you have to use this particular format, change the numbers to your student ID, but use the same format. Because some people would just copy and paste it, right? As for your name, use the name where it is consistent with the roster. I know some people have changed their last name because they got married or for whatever reason. But if your name on the roster is something, you want to use the same thing here so that I can grade it. I can put entries back into the grade book easier. After you complete the registration form, you will receive an email from Cengage to confirm that you have just registered. You have to click the included link to confirm your registration. At this point, you have registered with Cengage and have access to the CourseMate online resources. That includes the textbook itself, as well as activities that you can participate. Okay, you can go ahead and participate all you want, but I have no idea what you have done. Okay, so that's why you have to finish step 3, which is to link your Cengage product for this class to my class using the following course code. You just copy and paste this course code. The course code is course specific. In other words, we have 5 sections of CIS cisc310. Each section will have a different course code. This one is specific to my class. Are there any questions at this point about this process? Yep.
The source code, where do we copy and paste or?
Let me see if this document will help. More resources. So here's a PDF. And Zero is good. All right. So this is the instruction from somebody else, from the website actually, from Cengage itself. Let's see. It does show where to put in the course code. So I'm just going to skip some of these sections here. Right here. I know it's kind of fuzzy, but when you go to page 8 of this document, here is enter your course key. So you have to finish the registration first, and then you get back to, I think, CengageBrain.com. You sign in, and there will be a button, enter your course key. So that will link your Cengage product to this class so that I can see your accomplishments. So at any time, if you have problems following my kind of vague and concise instruction, they have I have a PDF that explains these steps with screenshots and whatnot. Are there any questions about signing up with Cengage? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, for the email, I already signed up for one because I have to do it for my econ class.
Mhm.
I didn't use the student email. I used my Yahoo.
Okay. I wonder if you can set up another account using the iMail account, because I think you can do that. I know it's kind of
Is there a way to
troublesome.
actually change it?
I don't know whether you can change it or not. You can look into it and see whether you can change it.
Where do I receive this type of email? Because where would I see those emails from you saying for grades? Is it going to be on tutorial?
No, this is Moodle. Moodle has its own gradebook.
Okay, so
So your gradebook will be here on Moodle itself. Look at Moodle as D2L, except it's free. It's a free open source product.
right.
All right. Has everybody signed your name on the roll sheet, especially for people who came in a little bit late? Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and sign in first. So we'll at least see what you should be seeing once you get onto the website. So with me, I have to use the same thing. Yeah, except I have to use my professor name and not my student name. So, and I have to remember which password I used.
And that's the school password.
It doesn't have to be. This one does not tie into the single sign-in password. Okay, so I got in, and let me see. Okay. Thank you.
Is that the book?
Sorry?
Is that the book you're using for this class?
Yes. That's right. Okay, so I can see how many people have already signed in here. So I can view the engagement tracker, which is basically just the grade. 0 students have signed in at this point. So. Okay, and I can look at resources. Oh, okay, actually, someone has already signed in. Great, excellent. Yep.
Where do we tell the bookstore people to get the book? Or where do we
It should be at the bookstore already.
Where's it called? Like, how do I find it?
Look up the class, this class. Yeah, every class at the bookstore has its own shelf, not shelf, but has its own stack. So you just have to go in and look up cisc.
Yeah, it looks different from that one.
And the course code of this class is, I think it's 18899. Yep, it's 18899. So when you go to the bookstore, look up cisc310 and this particular section. All sections should be using the same textbook.
Hey, Tack.
Yes.
This book looks a little different from the one that was on the picture.
I think it'll be.
It's in the back.
Sorry?
If you turn in the back, you can see the.
Is that the right book though?
The one you have in the picture.
Yeah, this one is quote unquote custom, custom made. Whereas the cover that you see on the back here, that's the cover of the book that you will buy from a store. But there's the ISBN of this thing is not available on anywhere else, because the professor who put this course together got a deal with Cengage, and this is kind of like a custom package.
Okay.
But it will
Same
be
book though, right?
it's the same book, and the access key will get you into the class. Yep.
How much is it?
That's $106. Yep.
Do everyone needs to register in the online?
Yes, because that's how I will be tracking your progress in this class. So you will have to have that resource for this class. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
If, because I'm on a wait list,
Mhm.
I'll be getting a couple
will take a look at the roll sheet at the end of the class, and depending on how many spots are open, I'll send email to people on the wait list, in that order. Yeah. Do you guys want to close the door? Because I don't think anyone will be coming in, in the last 10 minutes. And it is kind of getting noisy outside. Thank you. All right, so getting back to this course. I'm new to this also, so I'm gonna. Okay, let me just do it all over again so that you can see how I did it. Okay, so once you sign in, I think your interface will look a little bit different from mine because you're going to see it from the student perspective. But when you sign in, once you have put in the access code, you will also have access to the chapter ebook. The chapter ebook is basically the book, except it is electronic. And then I can click here to open the ebook, and that's what you will see. It's basically the same thing as the printed textbook, except it is electronic. I can view it using a browser. So what I will do with this class is, for every week, I'll give you a reading assignment of a chapter, usually, and I will just kind of go over the material in class, presenting, this in the class. But you still need to purchase the textbook in order to do the exercise so that, I can give you a score at the end of the class. Is that okay? Does everybody understand what you have to do? So this is chapter 1. I read chapter 1 already. And let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. I can, but it's kind of fuzzy when I zoom in. Is that okay? I mean, if I teach the class kind of using this interface, would that be okay? Yeah. I'm not going to read from the textbook. That would be like super boring, right? So I'll just be presenting the page where there are important topics that I want to go over, but you have to read the textbook too before the class so that we have something to talk about. Is that okay? Now, this is the first class. Obviously, I cannot have that expectation, but I'll just kind of go ahead and show you what I mean by that. So the first part of this chapter has a discussion of how technology is becoming has become so important in our daily life. In other words, can you list all the items in your household that has some kind of a processor in it? I can't because there are too many. Okay. Every cell phone is basically a computer. Okay. Let me see where my cell phone is. Here. Okay. How many people have a smartphone? Okay. Most people have a smartphone, or just any cell phone. This is, I would call this a computer pretending to be a phone. Okay? Would you guys agree that this is actually a computer just pretending to be a phone sometimes? Because it can do what a computer can do, plus also double as a telephone. How many people have signed up with Google Voice? Okay, we'll talk about Google Voice when it's time to talk about social media and social networking. What about your car? How many people drive a car that is manufactured after the year 2000? Okay, most of us, okay, unless you have a classic, 68 Mustang or something like that. Okay, how many processors do you think your car has? With any car, even an econo box that is manufactured after year 2000. It's at least 4 or 5. Okay. What is anti-lock brake?
So you won't lock up.
So you won't lock up. Very good. Okay, and that's controlled by a processor, its own dedicated processor. What about ECU? What is ECU in the context of a car? Engine control unit. Yep. Okay. What do you think that particular unit do?
a lot.
What does it do?
Controls the engine and all its functions.
Controls the engine, but what is there to control? I mean, my lawn mower, just pull the string, it starts, what is there to control?
Firing of the spark plugs, fuel mixture,
Mm-hmm.
several things.
Yeah, basically fuel mixture, inject.
Timing.
Yeah, timing.
Yep. Now that's all seems to be some sort of output. Does it have any input to that particular ECU? What does it have to get information from somewhere in order to decide when to fire the spark plug and how much fuel to inject into the combustion chamber?
Accelerator.
Okay, accelerator
Starter.
position, starter,
Oxygen sensors.
the air sensor, the mass air sensor, which tells the ECU how much air is incoming. What else? Engine temperature, knock sensor.
Weight of the gas tank.
Sorry?
Measuring how much gas is in the gas tank.
How much gas is in the gas tank? Maybe when your gas is getting low, it will get into an economy mode instead of the power mode.
Tachometer, transmission.
So it's pretty complicated. The ECU actually has a lot of work to do, and it has a lot of input from various components of your car. Okay, so I have the ABS as one unit, and then we have ECU as another unit. What else in your car do you think?
TCU.
TCU for
Transmission control.
transmission control unit. Now that one is new to me. Tell me about it.
What the car transmission, how it's work.
Oh, the transmission.
Yeah.
Since I drive stick shift, that's all kind of.
No, that's I came for automatic cars.
Okay.
Your transmission control.
That's a big one too. If you want your car to save fuel, the transmission, the TCU, actually has a lot of input into how to save fuel. Okay? But since I drive a stick shift, that's not an important issue. If you drive a Prius or any hybrid cars, there'll be another control unit for deciding, how much power to come from the electric motor, when to recharge the battery, and how much power to come from the gas engine, when to turn off the gas engine, and so on and so forth. So even with an Econo box, you can expect at least 4 to 5 processors in any car that is manufactured after year 2000. Okay. What else do you think has processors, but it is not very expected?
Cruise control. Cruise control.
Cruise control has its own processor, but other than cars, because cars are pretty expensive, right? I mean, even an Econo box will cost you, $10,000 or so. Yep.
TVs.
TVs, okay. Every TV is a computer pretending to be a TV. You will hear that term again and again in this class. It is a blah 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 pretending to be a blah blah blah. It's a computer pretending to be a blah blah blah. Yep.
Microwaves.
Microwaves. How about torque wrenches? Torque wrenches. I mean, you use a torque wrench to make sure that you apply the right amount of torque around the using lug nuts for other torque sensitive applications. Some of those have processors now. Well, they're expensive from Snap-on, but they do have processors. Why do you have a processor on a torque wrench?
To measure more precisely how much torque you're applying.
Exactly. And I can imagine you can program it to a certain torque amount, and by the time you get to that amount, it can beep you, it can tell you that it has reached the designated amount of torque. I can imagine this, the torque wrench someday will have a Bluetooth interface. So the mechanics will have a Bluetooth headset, and the torque wrench will talk to the mechanic and go, not quite there, come on, give me some more. Okay, stop, okay, it's good. And the mechanic can tell the torque wrench, well, now this part is not funny, okay, it's actually practical. Use a Bluetooth headset to tell a computer somewhere and say, I'm torquing a 95 Volkswagen, Jetta, and the torque wrench will have its torque automatically set to the right amount. How's that? Of course, it will confirm with you first, right? I mean, yes, I am, setting the torque wrench to the torque specified by Volkswagen for this particular car. But I can see that happening. Okay, I can see all that stuff happening because voice recognition is already kind of here, right? How many of you have already talked to your cell phone and asking questions? Some of you, Yeah, I tried, it didn't work very well, but the technology will mature, it will get there. So by the time it gets there, that means, you know, a car mechanic, okay, without having to put down the tool or, wash his hand or whatnot, can actually talk to a computer and figure out, stuff without having to walk up to a computer. Can you imagine how much time that can save if it works correctly? Okay. A lot of the cars, okay, how does your diagnostic computer talk to your car? In other words, you have a car that's manufactured after, say, 1996, and it has an engine problem. You get into a shop. How do you know whether the shop people know what they're doing? What do you think the mechanic should do right away? Pop the hood open, plug in the onboard diagnostic, the OBD2 connector. Okay? If the mechanic pops open the hood right away, you want to go somewhere else. Okay? Your check engine light is on, and the mechanic says, okay, I'll pop open the hood and see what's happening. No, plug in the OBD2 connector, because the computer can actually log a lot of information. When a fault happens, it actually remembers all the settings, all the state, the entire state of the engine when the fault happens. Okay? And even that is going Bluetooth. In other words, you can buy a dongle, a Bluetooth dongle, plug it into the ODB2 connector, and now it's wireless. The mechanic, the moment you tow your car in and turn on the ignition, the mechanic can have access to the car's ECU and all the other functions immediately. Okay? So what is that telling you? In addition to what the textbook is saying. Textbook is basically saying computers are everywhere. Well, it's everywhere, even places where we least expect computers. As the last thing, I know we are running out of time. Even a flashlight. Oh, it's out of juice. Have a processor, okay? Because some of these can blink out SOS patterns, okay? And I would kind of imagine that one day they will also have a Bluetooth interface, so I can tell the flashlight what to do over my Bluetooth connection.
That's crazy.
Well, that technology is coming, okay? The cost of electronics is no longer the issue. All right, I'll see you guys on Thursday. So please have the textbook ready by then, and then we'll talk about it.
We've got some questions for you, sir.
Yep, let me stop this recording.
Waitlist. Yeah.
Just hold on.